Hey everyone, welcome to Co-Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Boston. We have a really cool episode today. We are talking with a sleep expert, writer, comedian. I don't even know where to start. She's so many things. She's pretty amazing. She used to work in politics. She's very much a nap enthusiast, which I respect and admire because I am also very pro nap. She is here to talk to us about sleep and also her journey as a comedy writer. She's really funny, but also actually has a lot of really good information about how we can get more sleep, how important sleep is. So I hope you love this chat with Lindsay Scola. Welcome, Lindsay, to Co-Medicine. It's great to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we got introduced through Gold Comedy, through Lynn Harris, who's been a guest on this program. And you are my first sleep expert on Co-Medicine, so that is very exciting.
Super honored.
We love to, and actually I'm going to I have a lot of problems with sleep. So I was reading through your bio and I was like, oh.
So we're just going to spend the next hour diagnosing.
Yeah, just talking about me, if that's okay. No, we're going to talk about probably people like me. A lot of healthcare professionals and comedians listen to this podcast. I think I was at a show the other night and there was a guy on the show who works in the day and then he's a comedian at night. So he told me between 8 and 12 shots of espresso every day. And then he's smoking pot to even it out. And then he said he sleeps 4 or 5 hours a night. And we were just one of the comedians said to him, how old was your dad when he died? And this guy goes 45. And I was like, Oh, it was very insightful. It was a Gen Z comedian that said that to him. I was like, that's very insightful. So anyway, I'm excited to get into it. I think
I have no poker face. I would not have been able to be in that conversation because I would just be like,
yeah, I kind of was like, oh, and then he's like, it's okay because the pot evens out the cat. And I was thinking about Elvis and I was like, oh, that's what Elvis thought too. Right. It not work out so well for him. Okay, you are so many things. I almost don't know where to start. I try to start a bit more with the more serious day job, but it seems like all your work kind of is intertwined. But you are a writer, a speaker, an advocate, a strategist, a nap enthusiast. We love that. A sleep expert, a productivity expert.
Yeah, I'm a comedy writer.
Beautiful. Okay, well, let's talk about, if you're okay with it. I mean, you had so many jobs. I don't even know where to start. I'm going to ask you where you want to start with your kind of professional life.
I mean, that's kind of one of those start at the beginning things. ADHD gives us this magical ability to just sort of have a new hobby every couple of seconds and then occasionally turn them into income generators. So at least I don't get bored. I was a very politically driven kid. I staged my first walkout in first grade over unfair treatment in the lunchroom. First, but not the last time my parents came to pick me up from the principal's office. So everybody felt pretty good about me being destined to work in politics. So went to work for a congressman right out of school. Was on the Obama campaign super early in 2007. Ended up being a national advance staffer. So I was moving every couple of days to get ready for and then staff future president of the United States and then around for the Obama administration. And kept feeling this crazy pull towards entertainment. And I couldn't tell you why. I did a lot of intern interviews when I was in the administration and I would ask people what they wanted to do. And they'd say, I want to be Josh Lyman. And I would say Josh Lyman's not a job. For anybody who did not watch The West Wing, Josh Lyman was Riley Whitford's character, who was the deputy chief of staff of the White House, which is a job. And so that was me with entertainment. I was like, I want to work in entertainment. And people would be like, entertainment is not a job. And ended up getting a really great opportunity to come out to LA in 2016 to work for the Television Academy, the folks that do the Emmys, and started running talent relations there. And had this sort of crazy aha moment for myself. Grew up in a TV family, have always loved TV, but there is this interesting ability in television to be able to change hearts and minds on a topic without people feeling judged. And so it's way more effective oftentimes in politics because you're seeing people, they're having an intimate conversation with you in their living room. So it's not lecturing to people. And so I was sort of able to put all of my loves together in this TV world. Ended up realizing that I wanted to be out on my own doing content creation. That only came after I was diagnosed with narcolepsy in 2018. I had always felt excessively sleepy. The first time I talked to a doctor, I was 16 years old, and she told me that I was busy and busy people are tired. And so that just sort of hung with me my full career. But it wasn't, I was sneaking into the bathroom to take naps. I would like go into a stall and like put my head against the wall and cuddle up on a toilet and go to sleep for 15 minutes. And I like get to DC and there's all of these busy people. I was like with the best and the brightest, and like I didn't see them sneaking into the bathroom to take naps. And then it's, I was feeling it like as brain fog and as just not feeling quite as smart, or that I didn't want it as much as my colleagues. And all of that took like a real emotional hit for me. And then I just hit this big wall when I was 35. And if I didn't have to get out of bed, I didn't. I was like taking micro naps, doing things like driving a car. So totally safe.
That's
washing
fine.
dishes. I would like write memos for work and have like perfectly constructed sentences and then like gibberish and then more good sentences.
Wow.
And, no one had any good answers for me. And I told my doctor, something is seriously wrong with my sleep. I need you to test me. So I got an at-home test for sleep apnea, which came back negative. It's not what I have. She told me I was fine. And I was apoplectic. And I went home and I drank a bottle of red wine and an entire pint of Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia. And I found the end of the internet. And I decided that I did still, in fact, have sleep apnea, but I was tested in the wrong way. And I go back to her with this armful of information. And I'm like ready to make this like Annalise Keating level offense of my situation. And she looked at me and she was like, we are now past both of our knowledge on sleep. I'll send you to a sleep specialist. So it took me reporting issues for 19 years and then having a literal meltdown on the floor of my doctor's office to actually find out that sleep specialists were a thing. I did have a real sleep disorder, and I was diagnosed with narcolepsy 3 months later. And that, gave me a lot of answers, but I was still feeling like I just couldn't put it all together. And at 41, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And so somehow this combination of these two things together has really given me a lot of clarity for how I see productivity and how I see sleep, because I got diagnosed with narcolepsy. It wasn't that I just didn't know anything about narcolepsy. Like, I didn't know anything about sleep. And then I realized that I was not alone in that. None of us know anything about sleep. We were never taught about it in school. We think it's this like one and done thing that we like close our eyes, we wake up the next morning, and like Severance, nothing happens in between. And we don't understand why we make choices or how much sleep we actually need or what feels good for our body. And 1 in 5 people have a sleep disorder. They're only diagnosed at about 18%, which means there's about 50 million Americans at least, and then, a lot more worldwide that are wandering around not knowing that they need medical intervention. So that's how I really got to this place where I am doing sleep content and ADHD content to help people with their sleep and productivity, because I want to help ambitious humans recognize how they get the most out of their sleep. And just like that comedian, we actually get more productivity by leaning into our sleep than we do if we try to do everything we can to avoid it, like a lot of caffeine shots. So here I am.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, I'm going to back up. I went to school with someone actually who was narcoleptic. I don't think I understand what that means. Like, I'll be honest, like people say that. And I think what I think of, and I'm sure it's not correct, is someone who like just falls asleep in the middle of the day or falls asleep mid-sentence, and they think that's narcolepsy. But I have a sense that I have a poor understanding. So can you just explain?
I mean, that's what everybody thinks. You're not alone in that.
Okay.
The doctor told me you have narcolepsy, and I like cocked my head and I looked at him. I'm like, I don't think you're right. I've never fallen asleep into a bowl of soup, because that was the criteria that I assumed that narcolepsy came with. And people with narcolepsy actually don't do that. That's actually not a symptom of falling asleep into your soup or falling asleep mid-sentence. I think it's more like, that feeling when you need to pee. You need to pee. You're going to need to find a bathroom soon. If you don't find a bathroom, you may have an accident, but you get a warning about it. And so when we get this thing called excessive daytime sleepiness, I refer to it as like you're sitting in a conversation, you're otherwise engaged, and all of a sudden this sort of feeling sort of, like a fog comes into your ears and sort of like anesthetizes your faculties, and like you're usually doing something where you need to be staying awake. So I'm like, pinching my thigh, I'm tapping my feet. One time I like bit my tongue so hard it bled. And because you're trying to keep yourself awake, but you've got this sort of voice going off in your head, like if you don't go to sleep right now, you're going to die. which is how I was like sneaking into the bathroom to nap. It's more of like a warning on that. But then narcolepsy also has 4 other symptoms. So it's fractured sleep. You can fall asleep at night just fine, but you can't actually stay asleep because people with narcolepsy don't actually get deep sleep. We have a very sort of bizarre sleep pattern in the type of sleep that we get. Then there is hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations, which is a hallucination as you're falling asleep or waking up. So you're sort of in between a sleep and awake phase. Those can be audio, visual, sensory, or all 3. The majority of my hallucinations have always been audio. Like I hear things that aren't there. I'll hear something crash. I'll hear the dog bark who's fast asleep, people speaking Russian in the hallway, construction in the backyard at 3 a.m. And then every once in a while I'll have like a really scary one that I see something come into the room. It scurries across the ceiling. It tries to come get me. And it's usually coupled with sleep paralysis, which is this feeling that you can't move and you can't scream, which anybody can have at any point in their life, but people with narcolepsy have a lot more frequently. And then lastly, some people with narcolepsy have something called cataplexy, which is when you lose muscle tone with a strong emotion. So that can either be with a laugh, or with me, it's really with frustration. I tend to like lose my hands. I have a hard time gripping things, or like my bottom lip will droop or my eyes will droop a little bit. Normally when the face stuff happens, most people around me can't see it, feel it. My husband is very good at noticing it, but he's here a lot. So it's very subtle for me, but there's some people who it can be like a full body effect for. But narcolepsy has all of these sort of like disparate symptoms that you wouldn't necessarily put together. And then you have doctors who have less than 2 hours of sleep education in general. So you don't, have a very hard time getting these types of things diagnosed. And that's why there's a 7 to 15 year average for people to get diagnosed when they start reporting symptoms.
Okay. And I also imagine too, like, I guess, especially for women, but people like I had thyroid cancer, so I don't have a thyroid, or women who are going through perimenopause, like there's just and also people who are busy, like there's just this tendency to sort of say, well, you're busy, like you know what I mean? Like that's why you're tired. Like we're all tired. Yeah.
We equate burnout with ambition. And so especially women, like we've been taught to just muscle through, and we don't have any language to know when our tired is different.
I think your point about going to a sleep specialist is really great because, and I went through this actually, like I'm a veterinary specialist and my dog was having ear problems, and like I was trying to deal with it myself because I'm like, I should be able to do that. Nope. And then he was having behavior problems. Nope. Like then I was like, no, why don't I go to a specialist? And then they just, like it's so much more efficient to get the problem diagnosed. So even as a veterinarian, I deal with animal health all the time, but I don't feel like for very specific things, I feel like, no, go to a specialist, to get diagnosed. So you kind of have to like broaden that out and say, well, if you're having a sleep problem, like you should go to a sleep specialist and try to get this sorted out, because it's probably gonna be the quickest path to get you where you need to go.
Absolutely. And but we have a big education problem here. I did not know that the sleep specialists exist. And I know most other people don't know that sleep specialists exist. I have multiple friends who are sleep specialists who got diagnosed with disorders while they were in med school, who did not know that sleep specialists existed until they got diagnosed with their disorder. And then, eventually became sleep specialists themselves. But that's like our biggest thing that we got to get across to people, because a lot of general practitioners can send you for a study for sleep apnea, but unless you're like a man with a square jaw and a round neck, a lot of stuff gets missed, especially for women. Women with sleep apnea issues don't always report with like loud snoring, because we're not always aware of what our snoring is unless the person next to us is like fully, there, or, if there is no person, or you sleep next to someone who's like really a sound sleeper, you're not going to know. And so really a lot of times the things that we need to look for are waking up multiple times in the middle of the night to pee, waking up with headaches or sore throats, and then just like general mood issues during the day. And then these like, sort of feeling really sleepy. But if you reported those things to your doctor, for most women in, your 40s or 50s, well, if you had a kid, that's, you've got bladder issues, maybe they'll send you to a bladder specialist. They'll check your thyroid. If you're reporting sinus issues, maybe they'll send you to an ENT, but no one's actually like putting these pieces together. And the thing about sleep apnea is it's very easy to treat. Once we do treat it, it brings down blood pressure, it brings down insulin resistance. So you have less of a chance of high blood pressure, stroke, death. So I highly recommend if there's any potential issues with that people get checked out.
Okay, it's funny because I know we'll jump to this clip at some point, but the CPAPs, so I didn't know what a CPAP was. And then I was working in Florida, and then like a lot of people in Florida have CPAPs. And like, I was like, people would talk about them. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. People would get a CPAP. There was one like faculty member, he was a really big guy, and he has CPAP. And like when the interns would call them at night, they could hear a CPAP. They would talk about, they could hear a CPAP machine pumping, like if they called in the middle of the night. But I was like, what are you guys talking about? I don't know what that is. And, Florida's CPAPs at the time, I'm probably going to get in trouble right now. They were associated with obese people. That seemed to be like, that is what CPAPs were associated with. But now it seems like, no, lots of people have sleep apnea. Lots of people are using CPAPs. Like now all of a sudden, like they just seem like they're everywhere. This is my perception. I don't know if it's correct. So you'll have to tell me if it's correct. And also like, what is the deal with CPAPs? I guess I'm just asking you because I think you know about this. Like they seem like they just come on the scene.
Well, so I mean, they've been here for a long time. We had a really wrong association of who's affected. You're not alone in that. People either think that you need to be overweight or mostly that it's men with, round necks and square jaws. And really, you can have sleep apnea, either sex, any weight or face shape, because it's really your internal mechanism. So, weight can play a factor for some people, but I have something called upper airways resistance syndrome, which is like kind of a mild sleep apnea. And it's really that my tongue is too big for the inside of my mouth. My husband had a field day with that diagnosis because I never stopped talking. But that has nothing to do with weight or anything else. It's really that when I fall asleep, my tongue slides to the back of my throat, so I'm not getting oxygen. So really, it can be anybody. And now that we are understanding that more and more people are getting tested, 1 in 5 people have sleep apnea. So there should be a lot more CPAPs than you're actually seeing. 18% of those 1 in 5 people have been diagnosed and are receiving treatment. So there are a lot of people that have sleep apnea that have no idea. There's a lot of stigma about CPAPs. I think we have the clip to show, but we did a campaign called CPAPs Are Sexy because, you talk to a lot of people, especially people who are dating, that don't want to wear a CPAP because they think it's going to be a factor for their love life. But anyone who has slept next to someone who is snoring them into the next room, like a CPAP is really sexy. And then especially like when you know that person is like their life is being saved, that they're not going to potentially get a disorder around blood pressure or type 2 diabetes or have issues with strokes or any of these other things, like, and you care about this person, you want them to be receiving that help. And, they make a whole range of CPAPs. So some are louder than others. There is medical treatment. I mean, there's pharmaceutical treatment for sleep apnea now. There is, for some people, a device that can be implanted. I wear an oral appliance that pulls my bottom jaw forward. So that works for a lot of people. So there's a full range of appliances that you can be using to treat this. And that's why seeing a sleep specialist is so important, because they're the only person that's going to know about this. And then if it's something like an oral appliance, they'll send you to a sleep dentist, which was another thing I did not know exist. And how cute is this? My sleep doctor is married to my sleep dentist. I think that is like the sweetest thing in the whole world. But there's so many things that you can be doing to treat this. And honestly, I would much rather sleep next to somebody wearing a CPAP than somebody who is potentially choking in their sleep.
Yeah. No, fair. Okay, we're talking about it. So let's hop to this clip. So just if you can set it up, I know you said you were kind of the creative behind this clip is it from Gold Comedy?
Yeah. So this was a dual project with Gold Comedy and Project Sleep, 2 organizations near and dear to my heart. And we did this to show that CPAPs are, just as good for your life as anything else.
All right, here it is.
Ready to improve things in the bedroom? One powerful device to set the mood, customized to your body. Plug it in for the best night of your life.
I love it when you breathe without obstruction.
App controlled for your pleasure.
My blood is so oxygenated.
And your risk of stroke, my God, it's so low.
Snoring isn't sexy. CPAPs are. Your partner will thank you.
Shh. For real. Shh. People are sleeping. Shh.
Okay, that was great. Thank you for sharing that. It makes me laugh actually because my brother. I hope it's okay that I'm talking about this. I'll find out if my brother's still listening to this podcast. My brother, he has a CPAP. My mom is like, my Jewish mom, very concerned, right? And she's like, she will say like, I don't know. I've been thinking the only thing more embarrassing than your parents talking to you about sex is your parents talking to you about your brother having sex. So my mom will be like, yeah, I know.
I'm like, oh, I hadn't even processed that.
Yeah, I haven't either, to be honest. I haven't processed it either. But my mom's very worried about the CPAP interfering with my brother's sex life. So she's always, but then she'll say it like a mom. So she's like, how do you make love with a CPAP? And I'm like, those are like three things I don't want to think about that. I don't want to talk about it with my mom. I don't want to think about my brother having sex with or without a CPAP.
And it's just such a weird question though, because you don't need to be wearing the CPAP when you have sex. You can put the CPAP on after you have sex. You can take the CPAP off to have sex.
Have sex.
The logistics are very easy around this.
Okay. But I do think my mom's comment and your video are addressing, I think there is some stigma around it.
Oh, there's totally stigma around it. And this is something that we want to take some of the stigma off, is that anyone who would judge you for wearing that is probably not somebody you want to be with in the first place. And so if we can like explain to people like what this is actually doing for somebody's health. And again, like, you don't want to be sleeping next to someone who is choking themselves awake in the middle of the night. Like that is not sexy. Somebody who's like taking care of themselves. And like a CPAP has a very nice sort of gentle hum. So if you're going to sleep with white noise, like, I mean, this is sort of built in.
Oh, I like that. I do actually sleep with white noise.
See, there you go. Sleeping next to a CPAP would not be an issue for you.
Okay.
I actually sleep with a very nice sound mask. So I have flat panels in my mask so that I can listen to stuff when I go to sleep. I have a very noisy narrator, as many of us with ADHD have, and she gets a little mean as the night goes on. Her name is Janet. And I have found to shut Janet up at night, I need to listen to dialogue. I don't want to listen to like sleep stories or someone that's talking at me because I have to like respond and think about that. So I listen to comedy shows that I have already seen, so I'm not emotionally invested. And the sound of dialogue always puts me to sleep. So I set it on a timer on my phone to turn off in 30 minutes. I'm always out before that 30 minutes hits. And when I wake up in the middle of the night, as most of us with perimenopause do, I grab my phone. I do not go onto Instagram, and I set my sound back up, and I go right back to sleep.
Okay. I definitely want to talk about some of these strategies. You probably don't know who this is. She's a Canadian. There's a singer called Lorena McKennitt she's like plays harp. She's very melodic. Do you know who that is?
I grew up in Seattle, so I feel like I have more Canadian knowledge than many Americans.
Okay. So that was my kind of, a long time ago when she was popular, I could not make through The Lady of Shalott. It was like, it's a very long song. It was a very long song with a story, and I could never make it through that. But okay. You talked about your ADHD diagnosis. This is pretty common now. Like I think Gen Zs, but also millennials, Gen Xers kind of having late diagnosis maybe of ADHD.
We're just looking for it now. So the late diagnosis is more common because, most of us, I'm in my 40s, so they were certainly not looking for this in the 80s, especially the way that it shows up in women.
Right.
And then you're seeing it a lot more with people in their 40s and 50s because perimenopause mixed with ADHD is a really tough combo. And that hormonal surge makes it very hard to do something called masking, which is what most of us have been doing our entire lives, which is this sort of ability to like feel like an alien trying to figure out how the natives are operating and then like try to like make strategies to put that into place. And then that just becomes really difficult when you're going through perimenopause, which was my case, where I just hit this huge state of paralysis. And so we call it an ADHD burnout, where I couldn't, if I was like trying to send an email for work or make breakfast, I saw an endless web of possibilities and I wasn't able to do anything. And so I was just like stuck on my couch with 150 browser tabs open, no idea which one was playing music, and that like spinning, hourglass of death, frozen over everything. And so that was like the big indicator that something was really wrong. And then I ended up getting my ADHD diagnosis.
Okay. So then I think it's hard because there's so much going on. I don't mean with you, but I mean like with probably people our age, or maybe the younger generations as well. Like there's just a lot happening, right? Like if you're in the younger generations, you're trying to go to school, get your career going, move out of your parents' house, right? Like go to parties, stay up late, drink, do whatever you're doing, and then like try to take care of your sleep hygiene. And then maybe you have ADHD, and then maybe you have a sleep disorder. I don't know. It just feels like it's hard to tease everything out as far as like what's causing people to not sleep, I guess,
Well, yeah. And so this is my philosophy on sleep. I hate the term sleep hygiene.
Cool. I want to get into that.
It comes in this list of things that you have to do. And as soon as you don't do one of them, you're like, well, I fucked up. I am going to be a crappy sleeper for the rest of my life because I can't do at least one of these things. So I might as well not do the rest of them. And especially if you report with a sleep disorder and people don't know how to look for that or how to diagnose it, and you just keep getting handed back this list of sleep hygiene tips.
Right.
Like I had one doctor that was sure if I just stopped using my laptop in bed that all of my issues would go away. That's not going to cure narcolepsy. I mean, this was before my diagnosis, so she was not insinuating that the laptop would cure narcolepsy. But, it was always this, like, you need to do all of these things or you're failing. And sort of everything we've set up around sleep is that way. When in the 90s, like to be highly successful, people slept 4 hours a night. And like, thankfully we moved from that, but we went to, 8 hours or you're failing, which is also not correct. And so I like to take as much of the guilt and shame off of sleep as we possibly can and find things that work for people. Because what's going to help me sleep is not going to be what helps you sleep or the next person listening to this. And so I like to help people create a toolkit, and then you get to pick what tools work for you. And so for a lot of people who have issues sleeping or are dealing with insomnia, something has happened at some point that made sleep challenging for them. And then they got locked into a pattern where sleep felt challenging. And the minute our brains start to focus on sleep feeling challenging, it revs your brain up versus sending your brain down to get ready to go to sleep. And so we start programming ourselves that when we should be winding down, we start winding back up. And so we need to start resetting that programming to get people feeling good about going to sleep. And then understanding for the vast majority of us that wake-ups are normal. We were biologically programmed to wake up in the middle of the night for multiple reasons. So if you want to go like way back, when we were sleeping in the caves and like needed to know if the lions were coming in to defend ourselves, your brain is programmed to be able to wake up. Now, hopefully, most of us don't have lions coming into our room at night. If you do, I don't have good answers on that one. But, the modern day lions are, work deadlines, family stress, good stress from a wedding and a tough job show up very similarly for your brain. And so we have this thing going on where we're programmed to wake up for that. And then before artificial light, people used to sleep in 2 sleeps. So they would fall asleep with the sun when it went down, and then they'd wake up in the middle of the night and they'd spend time with their family, read a book, smoke a pipe, have sex, whatever people did before the internet. And then they would go back to sleep and then wake up again with the sunrise. Now we had the advent of artificial light and then the Industrial Revolution. And so we start getting a solid 9 to 5 work schedule, and we started condensing sleep into one chunk. But, some of us still wake up at 3 a.m. as this sort of ode to this biological setting. But when we don't think we're supposed to wake up, and you wake up and then you're looking at the clock and you're like, oh my God, I have 3 hours and 47 minutes left before I need to wake up and I got to make myself go back to sleep. You're doing that thing where effort is waking you up, and effort is always going to be the enemy of sleep. So if we can figure out the tools for how to get you to sleep and then how to get you back to sleep, sleep becomes a much easier, manageable situation for everybody. And then if we're doing those things and sleep is still feeling crappy, that's when we got to look for a sleep disorder.
Okay. I wake up at 3 a.m. every night. And now I'm glad you said that, because I was like, I'm like diagnosing myself like maybe I have narcolepsy. I don't know, because I do that thing, but maybe that's just what I do. I need to chill out about it, right?
A lot of people wake up at that time. I'm a big fan of horror movies. So when that was happening for me a lot, I was fairly certain that I was haunted. At the same time, this was pre-diagnosis for me. I was having hallucinations about a child ghost asking to hold my hand. So I went out and purchased sage. Now, I lived in a little tiny bungalow in Echo Park in LA. So it was probably a yes and situation on the haunting. But regardless, the sage did not cure my neurological issues.
Okay. I've been thinking about, for other reasons, saging my house.
I have no issues with saging your house. I'm just saying that if you happen to be having hypnagogic hallucinations, the sage is not going to do anything.
It's not for you. Okay. I have 3 important sleep questions. First question, you wake up at 3 a.m. Hypothetically, you wake up at 3 a.m. You have to pee. Do you get up and pee or do you try to go back to sleep? Can you settle this for me? Go pee. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, your brain is going to be thinking about how you have to pee. You're probably going to stay up because you have to pee. Get up and pee and go back to sleep. I actually am a big fan of telling people, if you get up and you're awake, get out of bed and do something else and go back to sleep. Because you're not going to force yourself to be sleepy. Anytime you're trying to force yourself to be sleepy, you're going to go the opposite direction. I tell a lot of people like get up and go clean their kitchen for 15 minutes and get back in bed when they feel sleepy again. Now, if you really like cleaning and that gets you excited, do something else. I hate cleaning. So like I go into the kitchen to clean the kitchen and my brain is like, I would like to do absolutely anything else, please, for the love of God. But go do something else. If you're someone who wakes up in the middle of the night and your brain is loaded with creative content, write it down. Our brains are snow globes. So if you wake up and all the snow is blowing around, you can't force it down. Write it down, get it out, because otherwise your brain's just going to be like, I got to hold on to this. I got to hold on to this. I got to hold on to this. I'm a big fan of the app on ChatGPT that I can talk to it. So like if I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh my God, I have these 8 ideas for a scene that I need to write in my next pilot, like just put it in that and have it hold on to it for me has been really great for my brain and then going back to sleep.
Okay.
And it's even like you can go get up and do work for another hour or 2 and then go back to sleep. Like that is okay. I want people to think of sleep as more of like a caloric content sort of thing. Okay. We don't panic about how we get our food every day. And we find out that some of us do better on a high protein diet. Some of us do better on a Mediterranean diet. Some of us do better on a vegan diet. And you can sort of play and figure out what works well for your body. Sleep is really similar. So you might be someone who sleeps really well in 2 sleeps. You might be someone who like only can sleep in a certain amount overnight and then takes a much like longer nap in the later afternoon and then like, parses it out that way. I know a lot of creative people who do their best work very late at night, but then still have to like function in normal working hours. And so adding a chunk of sleep in the afternoon to sort of help you manage to get enough sleep that keeps your body moving and functioning, because we don't want you to be sleep deprived, because that's when we look at neurodegenerative disorders, issues with, your immune system, memory retention. So we want to make sure you're getting enough sleep. But I want to take the pressure off that sleep has to happen in a very certain one and done kind of way.
Okay, I love that actually, because that's something I've wondered, because I'm a big napper. Oh, I love a nap.
I wear a necklace a lot that says good at naps. I have several shirts that say good at naps. I have a whole Etsy store actually called Good at Naps. So if you want any good at naps paraphernalia, I've got that for you. I love naps. No, but not everybody should nap.
Oh, okay. Who should not nap?
So here's the thing. If you imagine you wake up in the morning with an empty balloon. Now, this balloon fills with a chemical called adenosine throughout the day. So that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. When you take a nap, it's kind of like pinching that balloon so that it stops getting pressure for a little while. Because when that balloon blows up at night, that's when our sleep pressure hits and it's time to go to sleep. We go to sleep. It clears out the adenosine during the night. We wake up with an empty balloon again. Now, if you are someone who has no problem falling asleep at night, a 15-minute nap during the day is actually really great to restore your productivity, to give your brain a little bit of a break. If you are someone who really struggles to fall asleep at night, by taking that nap, you might not be getting enough of that sleep pressure in your balloon throughout the day.
Okay.
So play with it and
think about
see how that works for you. But definitely don't take longer than a 25-minute nap. We have sleep cycles in about 90 minutes. So the beginning of our sleep cycle is light, then it goes a little bit deeper, and then it goes deep sleep and then REM sleep. And for most people, that happens around 90 minutes. And so if you wake up too late into that cycle, you wake up into deep sleep or REM sleep, you're going to wake up really groggy and actually feel worse than before you took your nap. So I like to tell people, like, start with 15 minutes. It could be 20 minutes, but like really, really, really don't go past 25, because you don't want to hit that place where you're in deeper sleep. So I highly recommend folks setting an alarm before they take a nap.
Okay, you don't want to have I need you to explain that, because first of all, full disclosure, I will take a 2-hour nap.
Well, I mean, if you're taking a longer nap and you're getting a full sleep cycle, that's okay. If you take a 45-minute nap and you're waking up in the middle of your sleep cycle, you've made it worse on all the ends because you're going to have something called sleep inertia, and it's going to feel like you should still be sleeping. You're going to feel groggy, you're going to feel icky, and it's going to mess up the rest of the day for you. But if you sleep over that 90 minutes and you're into that, you've taken a full sleep cycle, that's okay as well.
Okay, so one or the other. Okay, I love that. I see you have the blackout blinds behind you, which actually we won't be able to see on the video because we're going to take those out. But can you talk a bit about light and sleep, and like for people who are having trouble sleeping, maybe people who live in a city, there's light pollution, or like even just how we're messing things up with daylight savings, like how, in my opinion, I guess I should say, in my opinion, if someone's struggling with that, agreed. Okay, cool. I'm praying that Trump will do one good thing
and make give us all permanent standard time.
Yes. I'm still not a fan, but if you could just take that pen and do that, because Canada's waiting. We won't do it until the US does it. So we're waiting for that to happen. But yeah, if you can talk a bit about light and how that affects people and their sleep and like what people can do, because I'm a bit jealous of your blinds that I can see.
Yeah. So blackout curtains don't cost that much. I highly recommend them. So melatonin is a chemical that our brain makes. That's our sleepy time, like get us ready to rest and go to sleep. But we don't start making that until it's dark. And so having extra help with the dark at night is going to help you fall asleep and stay asleep. And so that stay asleep. I'm somebody who's very sensitive to light when I'm sleeping. So, if you have the like air filter, it has like a blue light on it. Those types of lights, or like if you have a TV in your bedroom, has like an indicator light on it. Those things can wake you up. So you can put stickers on those types of things. What I love about the blackout curtains is that as the time changes, and like I am not somebody who does well waking up at 5 a.m. I don't want the light to prematurely wake me up at 5 a.m. So we keep the blackout curtains closed until the time that it feels best for us to wake up, but then making sure that you open them, because sleep is a 24-hour cycle. So we want to get light into those eyeballs and down your optic nerve first thing in the morning, because that starts your sleep trajectory for the rest of the day. So good sleep actually starts first thing in the morning. So, have the blackout curtains closed until it's time to wake up. Open them up, get light right away, go outside, drink your coffee on the back patio, or, take your dog for a walk early. If you have a morning dog, my dog is still sleeping behind me. I can actually hear him snoring. But the managing that light for sleep time and wake time is really important. I also sleep with a blackout mask. I love the company Manta. They make really great masks. It's the sound mask that I have, but they also make blackout masks without the sound in them. They have really nice eye cups, so they don't push down on your eyes and smush your eyelashes. So I'm a big fan of those.
Okay, no, that's awesome. And then you mentioned a bit with the sleep hygiene, because I know like I'm kind of happy you're not a fan of it, because like people just say, well, get off your phone, 6 hours before you want to go to sleep. And I don't do that. But how much is the blue light from computers and TV and the phone like messing up our ability to sleep? Or
so I mean, here's the thing. What we now know about the blue light is it's not that much different than any sort of light spectrum. So if you want to put your phone on a night mode and use it as part of your wind down routine, I've got no problem with that. I do that. It's really probably a lot more about the content that you're consuming that's keeping you up than the light itself.
Okay.
So if you are doom scrolling on Instagram for 3 hours before you go to bed, remember what we said, the effort is the enemy of sleep. Anything you do that's raving up your brain is going to make it harder for you to go to sleep. So political content, anyone who can look at political content right now and not get stirred up, please send me your tips. I certainly can't.
Yes.
So my phone is part of my wind down routine. I actually watch videos of people restoring cast iron skillets. I find it the most relaxing thing in the world. I am never, ever, ever going to restore a cast iron skillet, but I love watching other people do it. And like that sends me off every night. And so, we see all of these things about 5-step, 10-step wind down routine. And steps are another thing to make us think we're failing. It's really about cues. So even if you are not a routine person, which I'm not, like nothing in my brain ever says like you have to brush your teeth before you do this. Now, intellectually, I understand that my teeth will fall out, which will be an embarrassment to my parents who spent, money on 2 rounds of orthodonture. So I still brush my teeth so they don't fall out of my face. But otherwise, nothing in my brain says like routine, routine, routine. But inside your brain, we are all programmed for routine. So your brain is looking for cues that it's time to do the next thing. And so whatever you can do that starts telling your brain, like, this is the thing we do before we go to sleep is really good. So whether that's like you've got a pair of pajamas that you get really excited about putting on, if you're a scent person, like if you want to play with essential oils to smell before you go to sleep. It's been really dry in LA this year, so we use a humidifier in our room. A little scent in that like makes me feel sleepy at night, or that I associate with sleep, is really good. And so you're giving yourself cues instead of a checklist.
Okay. No, I love that. I want to thank our Season 6 title sponsor, Covet. Covet is an AI co-pilot for veterinary professionals, and I'm excited to talk to you about it because this is the AI co-pilot that we're using at the hospital where I work. There's so many great uses for this. I get a lot of referrals sent in with a ton of PDFs, and sometimes just like 12 years of the dog's medical record sent to me. 12 years, you guys. I don't have time to read through all of that. Sometimes my records are sent to me in French. That's challenging for me. That's okay. Covet can deal with it. It takes everything, turns it into a nice summarized document so I can review everything before I go in the exam room. And then once I'm in the exam room, Covet can listen to the entire consultation. I can talk about my physical exam findings. I can talk to the client. We can make a plan together. All of this gets summarized better and faster, honestly, than what I can do myself. And there's a lot of cool features in the app. One of them is you can call a client from the app directly. It will listen to both sides of a conversation, and then it will summarize the whole thing. Again, better and faster than I can. This has literally saved me hours every day, getting my paperwork done, getting me out in time, and also just decreasing my general stress level because I'm not worried, oh, did I get that all? Did I get the right leg? Did I get everything recorded? Am I going to forget something? And it's a lot nicer to focus on your patient and focus on your client rather than having to constantly be turning away from them and writing stuff down. So check out Covet. It is fabulous. I want to thank them for everything they do to support the veterinary profession and also for supporting this podcast. Okay, I have one more sleep question, and then I want to talk about comedy. I just want your thoughts on, it kind of goes with the sleep hygiene, but caffeine. Because I think as a society, people are pretty caffeinated in general. And I am not a coffee person. I'm a tea person, but I don't rely on caffeine, but I see people that really cannot function in the morning. And there's all those jokes about don't talk to me till I've had my coffee. But people who literally cannot function, talking about my husband, if he's listening, cannot function without a cup of coffee in the morning, just can't. And I think that's really common. And I just how does that tie into your sleep hygiene I didn't mean to say sleep hygiene, bad word.
Oh,
how does it tie into your,
I mean, it's still a thing. I just want you to get more excited about sleep versus feeling like a checklist.
It's a hygiene. Okay, fair. But how does the whole caffeine thing tie in for people? Because people like the guy I just met who's having 8 to 10 shots of espresso. I'm that cannot be good.
That could be good for your heart.
Yeah, or I get really stressed because I work with a lot of house officers and they're drinking the Monster, whatever that is, and I'm just kind of I don't know. I don't have kids, but I feel like I want to take care of them and be please don't drink that. I don't think that's good for your body, but they're in it, they're drinking it. So what are your thoughts on heavily caffeinated beverages, I guess, and what's that doing to our sleep, our ability to sleep or be awake, I guess, either one?
Well, so most people who can't function without a cup of coffee in the morning, I'm actually, I love the taste of coffee. I'm actually, it's morning here while we're recording. I'm drinking decaf coffee, because I like the taste in the morning. Caffeine is actually not doing anything for you when you first wake up. So the people that feel like they need it, they're just getting wired and they're more addicted to the caffeine than they're actually doing anything for being awake. So if you go back to that example about the balloon filling up, caffeine works with adenosine similarly to the way a nap does. So if there's nothing in that balloon yet, the caffeine is not actually doing anything to help keep you awake. It's just making you wired. So you can use caffeine strategically, when you're having a little bit of a fall off in the early afternoon. And so that's when caffeine can really strategically help you. The thing that we do need to be really careful with caffeine is that even though you metabolize most things out of your body in about, 2-ish hours. The half-life of caffeine is much longer. So it's staying in for 6 to 8 hours. So that's why, those people that really have to be careful about, napping as well should be really careful about caffeine too, because it's going to make it harder for them to fall asleep and to stay asleep because it's still in their system. And so, it's really for people who are oh my God, I need all of this coffee. It's really a lot more about being addicted to the caffeine than it's actually doing anything for them being awake.
Okay. All right. No, it's these are things that make me worry. Okay. It's really fascinating. So as far as being a sleep expert, I know you you do workshops but you do one-on-one consults with people too, or like?
Yeah. I coach,
Yeah.
and then I have my first online course coming out for everybody in the middle of June called Sleep is the Power Move. And that is going to be for you to understand sleep science and how to put your own toolkit together. And really the sleep is a business practice, that there is an ROI on your energy investment. And so that I for people who need more work with me, I do one-on-one coaching to really look at your chronotype. All of us have biological programming for what time we are supposed to wake up and go to sleep and when our energy is the best throughout the day. So I help people look at their schedules and actually map around that and understand that you cannot be productive every second of every day, and then look for other issues that could be at play. If there's something like a sleep disorder at play, how to find the right sleep specialist and how to work with them to get the answers that you need. And then do corporate workshops, teams as well, to recognize that sleep is the greatest productivity tool that all of us have. And really that you can be functioning a lot better as individuals and teams if you're creating a culture that encourages people to get the right amount of sleep for them, then to energy map in the way that works best for people's bodies.
I love that. I love that concept because it was probably more so in the 90s, but it's still there, especially in the healthcare professions where it's like, it's almost a badge of honor. Some of the specialists I've worked with have been like, I was here all night. And like, I'm like, well, that's terrible. Like, it's
terrifying for all of us.
For everyone. Yes, you're right. For everyone involved, or there's this kind of, it's starting to fade away a little bit, but this kind of thing of like pushing our interns and our residents that they don't sleep and like they have to be tough. And I'm like, they need to go home and rest. Like, I don't want them here. They're going to make a mistake.
Driving after 20 hours is more dangerous than driving drunk.
Right. Okay. That is yes. So yes, I experienced some of that when we're in the university setting than where I am now in a private practice setting, but kind of like, yeah, it was kind of, so I think flipping that and saying, no, actually, you're going to be a better doctor. You're going to be a better, whatever you are, writer, comedian, like whatever that is, you will be better at your job if you actually get a normal, or what, I don't know what normal is, but a good amount of sleep for you and you're resting. Yeah.
For most adults, that's between 7 and 9 hours. Sleep is a bell curve. So 8 is the top of the bell curve. So when everybody came out and like, you need 8 hours of sleep, it's just the average. And so some people, it's going to be 6 hours and 45 minutes. Other people, it's going to be 9 hours and 15 minutes. It really doesn't matter. The key indicator that you're getting enough sleep is that you wake up in the morning feeling rested and that you're not having moments where you feel excruciatingly tired in the afternoon. Like a little sleepy and taking a nap, totally fine. But the excruciating tired or feeling issues with your memory, because when we're sleep deprived, we're all getting, hits with memory retention because that's happening during REM sleep. I really, really wish that I could go back and talk to myself in college and be like, after you learn something, literally sleep on it. Because a night of cramming, you might remember it the next day for the test, but it's certainly gone after that.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And also, trying to have the confidence of, like, stop studying, you've studied enough, go to sleep and you will do better, and trying to, get that through your head that no, staying up till 2 or 3 it's not helpful.
Absolutely. And it's the same thing for professionals. Like if you've got a big project coming up, nothing else in our life do we go like, I've got a big project for the next 2 weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, I'm not going to breathe. Like we don't think that that's acceptable. Like we understand that our body still needs to keep breathing, but sleep is just as important as oxygen, water, and food. And if we don't treat it that way, our body is going to reflect that in a whole host of ways.
Okay. I love that. I've been also like, I've got a friend who's she's a veterinary surgical oncologist, but she's also now like the director of the Aging Institute at Colorado State University. And like she, I just heard her lecture, but she's talking about your health span, and like sleep is actually a really important component of that, of like not living longer, but better as you age. Is like sleep is kind of one of the key things, and everyone's looking for the pill or the whatever that's going to be the fountain of youth for us. But it's actually, we have the tools. We just don't necessarily use the tools. So
yeah, no. And if you're struggling with your sleep with insomnia, like the gold standard is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a big combination of some of the things we've already talked about reprogramming your feelings about sleep. It's not actually pharmaceutical. Now, I'm definitely not against pharmaceuticals. I take plenty of them for narcolepsy and ADHD. I live a much better life through chemistry, but I don't want people to feel like they have to go to a pill for insomnia when we've got a lot of these tools that are actually going to last longer for your system than a pill would.
Okay, this is also cool. I need to pivot. I want to pivot to comedy. So okay, I mean, you have all these paths going. So, I mean, I feel like you're not a chronological person necessarily, that you're like, then I did this, then I did this thing, then I did this thing. It's kind of like a lot of interwoven things. But like, as much as you can you tell me how you got into comedy writing and kind of what your comedy career, as far as like that section of your career, has been?
So I wanted to start writing during the pandemic. I went through a big sort of refocusing around narcolepsy. I collect disorders like other people collect cool sneakers. So I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's hypothyroidism when I was 24, and pretty quickly found out if I take a pill every day for the rest of my life, I never have to think about my thyroid. And then I got diagnosed with celiac at 27. And outside of an epic meltdown I had on the phone with my mother that I would never eat my own wedding cake, to which my Jewish mother was far more concerned that I'd find someone to marry. So she let me cry that one out. Side note, 13 years later, I did get married. And more importantly, we had the most delicious gluten-free wedding cake. But I found out as long as I don't eat gluten, I really don't have to think about celiac. And then I got diagnosed with narcolepsy. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to find the pill that makes me again. And I'm never going to think about narcolepsy. And the thing about narcolepsy is you don't get better. You just get better at having narcolepsy. But I had felt so behind in my life. There's no novel treatment for narcolepsy. So you're treating symptoms. So sometimes a medication might give you more side effects than the symptoms that it's treating. And at a certain point, I didn't know what my baseline was anymore. So the gift of the pandemic of being home for me was that I could get off all of my narcolepsy treatment, find my baseline, and then really thoughtfully start adding medication back in. But for me, I recognized that like I had this career that had been in service to other people, and I couldn't in good conscience know that there was somebody else out there that had been going for 19 years thinking that they were crazy, not helping them. And so I needed to find my voice on this. And so what started as just like a how do I write about this, and then recognizing that I'm someone who loves to tell a story, and the stories are funny. I mean, at least I think so myself. And then so that all sort of became a combo that sort of swirled together. And then I found my way to TV writing. So that was all through Gold Comedy, by the way. Another pitch for Gold Comedy. Okay. That's really where I found my voice as a writer. And it was actually my TV pilot that ended up getting my ADHD diagnosis. Was that one of our producing partners suggested that we add a neurodivergent character. And so we decided to give one of the women in her 30s ADHD. And I was like, I know about ADHD. It's that thing that like boys like bounce off the walls with. So I started like doing research, and then I realized that she became the easiest character for me to write because I was writing myself, and was like this indication of what ADHD actually looked like in an adult woman. And so that was this really coming full circle for me of my love of TV being able to really move hearts and minds, but actually like educate people in a way that they're not being educated because they're laughing, and really putting all these things together. And so now, comedy is really like integrated into the way that I write about sleep health. I have a newsletter that goes out every Tuesday called Rest Assured. And really, it's self-deprecating about myself, but it's also, if we can't laugh about these things, it makes them too serious to actually focus on. And so, one of the things of like trying to take some of the pressure off of sleep, which can be so hard for so many of us, is that the way that this shows up for a lot of us is really funny. And so trying to combine all of those things to just make it easier to digest and understand.
Okay. And can you talk, I know you had a TV pilot in 2024 that was a selection at Series Fest. I don't know how much you can talk about it, but can you talk as much as you're comfortable about your TV
we're still working on it. The TV industry is very slow. For anyone who's been paying attention, there was a writer's strike and an actor's strike, and then a network consolidation, and so it was hold on till 2025. I don't know what we're on till 2026 now, but we're still working on it, and hopefully we have something out there for everyone to see in the world. Still very much in progress. In progress. And it's a comedy, or is it a... Yeah, it's a comedy about presidential advance folks. So that's what I did.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so that's cool. what I did for President Obama. For anyone who's not familiar with Advance, when you've seen it, where the president comes to the stage and takes the microphone in front of perfectly steamed flags, someone had to steam those flags. So, we're ready to tell our story. So this is the behind the scenes stories about the behind the scenes people. Sometimes the most dramatic thing happening at a presidential speech is the advanced staffer backstage trying to stuff remarks into a binder. So
Okay. Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, I hope that works out. Now, the other thing you said, you kind of said it just casually. You're like, then I just got into TV writing. which I know you said through Gold Comedy, but can you just expand on that? Because like, for comedians listening or the host, your host right now, I'm like, okay, but how, like, you just got into TV writing, like, how did you do that? Like, what was the process for you of like, you're a TV writer now, like, what was the process of doing that?
I mean, it was really these classes that I took at Gold Comedy, which was really just helping me figure out how I wanted to channel my voice. And the same way that you write stand-up jokes or that you write essays, TV writing is just a really different, it's just a little different format on that. So, learning how to place dialogue and how to put scene structures together is no different than learning how to put your type 5 together. It's just a different structure of doing that. And there's really great resources out there. Thankfully, one of the best things I think about the pandemic was that so much of this education came online. And so there's so many good schools out there that you don't have to be in some place like LA or New York to be learning a craft, is that you can take a class online. I'll put one more plug in for Gold Comedy.
Yeah.
That, it's made it really accessible for a lot of us, especially, trying to change mid-career, to be able to learn and understand and move this stuff forward. And so, yeah, it's very... It's a very similar process to anyone who's trying to learn a new craft on that. You're just learning a different format.
Okay.
So we've been, this is my second pilot script that moved a little further than the first pilot script, and hoping that it'll be on people's TV screens in the not too distant future. But I'm really grateful to be able to have that education. But part of finding my voice through writing TV scripts was what helped me put my book together. So my book came out May 21st, and was really, my ADHD diagnosis process that, when I went through this ADHD burnout and I got my diagnosis, was that I got a lot of aha moments about my past, but I really didn't have a lot of tools to get me moving again. AI became this really big tool for me to get myself moving again, especially as a writer. So my book is AI for ADHD, Practical Guide for Starting and Actually Finishing What Matters. And, my journey to just figuring out that I was a writer and that I could channel, these big important topics in a way that was funny and accessible for people all sort of, came to fruition there.
Okay. Can you describe, because AI is like, it's a bit controversial. I use it in my work, like, there's starting to be scribes, like AI scribes for medical professionals. And like, it actually is a bit life-changing, I'll be honest, like, because what I find is when I'm talking to a client, I am not worrying about writing anything down because it's just coming out and I know that it's getting not just recorded, but organized. And even things like when I measure stuff, like, or I say the temperature or whatever, like, I don't have to be like trying to go on a computer or write it down or try to remember stuff. I just can kind of say it. So it's great. And then I've also used it I just wrote a textbook chapter and I love writing. I love that part. But the part with the references at the end, like, I want to shoot myself. I'm just like, so this time I was like, the robot's doing that. I'm not going to sit there and format all these references to the AMA standard. I was like, I am absolutely refused to do that. So I guess those are my little dipping my toes into AI. Like, when it comes to an ADHD diagnosis or creativity, like, how are you using AI or how do you think it's beneficial?
Well, so the starter for me was that I am a terrible visual processor. I can reread something 5 times and miss a typo. I have spelled my own name wrong in emails. And I just like spell like a second grader in general. So I got very skittish about putting my work out into the world because I'd had decades of public typos, and I got really afraid about that. And so there was, my anxiety wasn't, like staying up at night wondering if like the ceiling was going to cave in. Like my anxiety was based on something real that I had done before. And the way I got started with ChatGPT was like as a sort of fancy proofreader, because like, when you're on Word, it'll pick up that you spelled a word wrong, but it won't necessarily pick up that you used the wrong version of a word. And so like I would like know if like there were 2 versions of this word and I wasn't sure if I was spelling the right one, I just wouldn't like use it. I would like sort of dumb down my writing to like try to avoid that. And so at first it was just sort of this like fancy proofreader for me. And I've always, been somebody who like constructed these like really beautiful sentences in my head, but by the time I got to my keyboard, I was so apprehensive about getting them out or like the structure of it. Like, do I start the sentence with the or once, or like I'm writing an email, do I start with hey or dear or good morning? And then by the time I like made a decision about that, I couldn't even remember what I was trying to write. And so like the things that were in the head were gone. And so one of the like the best things for me about ChatGPT was being able to like sit down and just like dump everything out of my head into one place and then having it help me structure. Like that was super helpful. I mean, because all of us were really nervous about this, you know, all of us who like use it now are very nervous at first because we've seen that like LinkedIn post where somebody got on with like no context or anything. It was like, write me a post about leadership. And like it like is like written by like a robot and like very beige and like from the year 2087. And like I don't want to read that. So like why would I want to use this tool? But when you're using it with your own words and to like help you move forward, it's super brilliant. I'm also like, you know, that card catalog from college when you're trying to find the book in the stacks and like you're like going through those, like I constantly feel like that's my brain with words. And so I would get to a place where I couldn't think of the word. And so I would either go and I'm like trying to find out a thesaurus online and then I'm like seeing 3 other things and getting distracted. And next thing I know, I've like cleaned out my closet, but like don't have enough energy to put things back on hangers. And I, again, can't remember what I was trying to write. So now like when I'm writing, I'll just like leave a blank spot where that word should go and like have ChatGPT give me suggestions for that word. And I might not use any of them, but it kept me moving so I can get the whole thought out. And so those have been really helpful. I talked about writing my sleep newsletter. Sometimes I go back and forth between like, I want to share 18 hours worth of information in like what should be a 10-minute newsletter, or I have absolutely nothing to say. Why would anyone want to listen to me? And so I love getting on ChatGPT and asking it to interview me like a podcast host, one question at a time. And then like I'll start answering questions. And then I'm like, that's it. That's tomorrow's newsletter.
That's really cool.
Like things that I know work really well for my brain. I really like to talk in case anyone hasn't figured that one out. When I'm like talking to ChatGPT and I get into something and I get excited about it, that's when I get my best ideas and then I can go write something for my newsletter. And so it's sort of endless possibilities on that. And so the whole book is really constructed in the like, not ethereal, but like how do you take the thing that's keeping you from moving and use it to get started? And whether that's like trying to help you figure out how to clean your apartment, because, you know, for those of us with ADHD, that's a really challenging one. As someone who put away 2 weeks worth of laundry from a floor drobe yesterday, I can definitely attest to that. Sometimes I can get the laundry done. Yeah, it's that pile where it couldn't quite make it into the dresser, but it made it next to the dresser. And so everything is clean in theory. Yeah. But it just like the idea of putting it away, the executive function was just not going to let you get there. So that's the floor drobe. But so, you know, I go through like how to use these tools to like actually help you put plans into place and break things down. Because sometimes ADHD brains can have a to-do list that's like, schedule with the dentist, pay the bills, figure out what to make for dinner tonight, learn Japanese and write a book. And they all have equal importance right now. And so like, how do we use these tools to help us like break down to like what needs to happen today? Maybe you should download Duolingo before you commit to being conversational this evening. And that like, you know, like how we can place these out in a way that's like really manageable for our brains, because we get all these like productivity systems thrown at us, which might seem great for 3 days and you invest a lot of time in it and then you never go back because you get frustrated, which is why all of us have a drawer full of planners that we maybe use like one day of. And then, you know, we're too embarrassed to like get rid of it. So they're like stuck in a drawer someplace. This is something that's like constantly flexible that you can continue to work with and make your life easier.
Okay. Oh, I love that. And you said there's a way you can talk. I've never done the talking. I guess I do it through the AI scribe, but I've never talked to ChatGPT. But you
right. So ChatGPT has a really fantastic app that has a button that you can push and it gives you a voice. And so you're talking to a voice. And so some of my most brilliant ideas come while I'm driving. Yeah. And then like, you know, you want to be safe, so you're not doing anything about it. And then you just beat yourself up for the next 2 weeks that you can't remember that brilliant idea. And so like, I'll just like talk it out with ChatGPT where like we go back and forth on stuff. I'll just like spit out whatever's in my head and ask it to hold on to it for me. Yeah. And it's really good at that. You need the paid version for that, by the way. Like the free version doesn't have that.
That's why I'm like, why don't I have that? Okay, that's why I don't have that.
So it's the best $20 a month I spend. But it's then because then I can like be like, remember when we had that conversation about X, and it pulls it back up for me.
Oh, whoa, yeah, okay.
Because like sometimes you like get really excited about working with it on something and then it's like taking you to the next step and the next step and the next step, which is like, you know, 4 months down the road for me. So I'll be like, I'm so glad we worked on this. Hold on to this. And I'm going to ask you about this in 4 months.
Okay, that's really cool. I know for comedians, like this is it's a big thing for, I guess, all creatives. It's a big thing that you get an idea for a joke. Usually it's at night, or sometimes it's just when you're driving, or it's when you're walking, or whenever your mind is kind of creative, I guess. And then you think I'll remember it, and then you
never do.
Never do. It's amazing.
You never do. It's gone. And then
Yeah.
I always talk about like ADHD, and I think this is a lot of creatives, regardless of your ADHD status. It's like trying to catch glitter. And so like the number of amazing ideas that have died from me between the shower and the towel are like super tragic. And so like having this close by and just being like, remember this amazing joke that I just came up with, has been so incredibly helpful for me.
Okay. And then you can probably tell the robot, like, put this in this file or put this in this file, and it will kind of keep it organized. Okay. I'm going to check
and then
that
even
out.
like you can like search on it. So like joke about X, like it'll bring it back up for you.
Okay. See, this is where I know a lot of creatives are scared of. I don't think it can replace writing a joke. Maybe
it's not funny.
It's not.
Anytime
It's
it
not,
has tried to rewrite something for me, like I ask it to prove something, and it tries to like rewrite a joke, and then I will go back to it and be like, ChatGPT, you are the scaffolding. You are not funny. I write the jokes. I tell ChatGPT all the time, like, I write the jokes. Please do not rewrite my jokes.
Okay.
And like I think that's a very human thing about humor, that it's. I mean, it might figure it out in the future. Who knows?
Yes.
But right now, it has not, and you don't want to outsource. You want your writing to still sound like you.
Yeah.
And so you can use these tools to help you do that.
Yeah.
You can use it to help you figure out your structure. I was writing a scene the other night that was like two people getting like amplified, where they're like having a fight through a waitress based on menu items, and I needed a bitter food. And like normally, I would like Google like bitter foods, which would then I'd like see a side ad about something, and then I'd be like, oh, there's pants that I've been wanting to get from there. So I like click on that, and then like while I'm looking at the pants, I'm like, oh my God, in my email, I have a discount code for these folks. And then I go in the email, and then I see this email from somebody that I need to respond to, but I don't exactly know what to say. And now I'm back to like doing something I didn't want to do before, like cleaning the kitchen. And 3 hours have gone by, and I haven't made any progress on the joke or my writing. And so it's like, it's super nice to be able to like stay in something that's like keeping you from getting distracted, where I'm like, okay, give me bitter foods, and then like playing around with like menu name items for the bitter foods, and then like going back and writing my joke. It can't write the joke for me, but it can help me get the pieces that I need to make the joke funny.
Okay, no, I do love, you just described my morning. I think actually, I don't know, like I'm like, oh, I should do that. And then like sometimes I'm like on the email because I was checking a thing, and then I don't even remember, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like what do I do? Why am I doing this? So yeah, I think that is like, you know, I'm not diagnosed with anything. Who knows?
But I got a book that you can look at.
Who knows what I am? But yeah, I definitely have all the tabs and all the things, and I feel like I can get distracted. So I think whether you're ADHD or not, I think it's common. And so trying to limit that is good. Yeah,
exactly. And so I don't want anyone to like be afraid of the book if they don't have an ADHD diagnosis.
Yeah.
If you ever find yourself getting easily distracted or have a hard time finishing things that you want to, or just getting started with things, this is what this book is about. Is just like really easy, actionable strategies. I have the second chapter of the book is all about how to use AI. So if you've been using it, you can skip that. But if you're somebody who's like been a little afraid to open ChatGPT, I even start with like how to create your account. So the book sort of meets people wherever they're at. I wrote it in a way where there's like big headlines for things. I don't care how you read it in one sitting. It feels a little ambitious to me. You know, go one chapter at a time. Pretty reasonable. Or do it in a state of panic, which I appreciate your efficiency. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, you're not going to hurt my feelings.
Okay. I love it. Okay. Well, I have loved talking to you. It's been really fascinating. I'm a little frightened how much I'm self-diagnosing myself right now.
Well, chapter 1 is all about
I'm
that.
fine.
So if that feels good to you, I support it.
Okay. We are at the last question, which I ask all of my guests on Co-Medicine. So my dream guest, I love all my guests, I should just say, but I would really like to get Ken Jeong to come on the podcast because he's a physician who's now a comedian. So he's kind of like he's kind of like embodies what co-medicine is all about. We're in season 6. We have asked him to come on every single episode and still no, but who could happen? So could you please just, you're not talking to me, you're not talking to the audience, you're just talking directly to Ken Jeong. Could you invite him to be a guest on Co-Medicine?
Ken, I think you're really funny and really smart. And this is one of the most fun hours I've had in quite a while. So I think you should do yourself a favor and join the podcast.
I like that. That was like complimenting him, but also making him feel like he might be missing out if he doesn't come on. So yeah, I like the strategy. I think it was a good strategy.
I worked in politics for a long time.
Oh yes, of course. You're like, I know how this goes. All right. Well, Lindsay, thank you for all your time and sharing all your expertise. I hope we're helping some people out there with whatever they need, and hopefully helping people get better sleep, using comedy as a tool to help get through to people. Whatever you take from this hour. Thank you so much for being on Co-Medicine.
Thank you so much. Come find me. LindsayScola.com.
Yes. We'll put that all in our show notes too. All right. Thank you. And that wraps up another episode of Co-Medicine. Thank you so much for listening. It is great having you here. If you have been listening to Co-Medicine from the beginning, thank you. If you're new to Co-Medicine, thank you and welcome to our Co-Medicine community. It is wonderful to have you here. I want to just give a shout out to Mark Edwards, who wrote the music for Co-Medicine. He's a comedian, an actor, a musician. He's going to be famous, you guys. And then you'll be like, is that the same Mark Edwards? And I'll be like, yeah. He's my friend, you guys. I know him. And he wrote the song. He's amazing. Also, big shout out to Dustin Bays. Thank you for editing the show and producing it. I appreciate you because I don't know how to do that stuff and I don't want to learn. Yes, it's willful ignorance, I think, at this point, but I'm so glad Dustin is here with me, helping me out with the show. And thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it, share it, do all the things, review it. If you're a sponsor or a potential sponsor, call me. That would be great. If you don't like the show, I don't know why you're still here.